Hi there, welcome to the Growth Whisperers, where everything that we talk about is building enduring great businesses. But I'll be honest, it's probably targeted at the mid-market. That's how I'm feeling. I didn't talk to Kev about this, so he's going to throw some tomatoes at me. But look, we talk about scaling businesses here and the things you got to do right. And yeah, we're pretty passionate about it. My name is Brad Giles. And of course, my co-host is Kevin Lawrence. G'day, Kevin. How are things for you today in wintry Vancouver?
It is, as well. It's a little rainy Vancouver today, but yeah, I'm not going to throw any tomatoes. You would call them tomatoes. I would call them tomatoes. It is for the mid-market. That's what we're focused on. Growing mid-market companies, up to 1,000 or 2 employees, is kind of where we focus to. Yeah, that is our focus. I agree. 100%. So yes, we're aligned. Brad.
So you're doing good. Tell me, what is your phrase of the day there? We're such a smooth operation here.
We're just clunking along here. Well, my phrase would be, I was almost started having an Australian accent there. Taking tomatoes, and I'm always inspired by simplicity, and I'm often can be inspired by great chefs, but to take tomatoes, your phrase, and it's is this a while ago we took this cooking course with this chef. It was in Vancouver, and an amazing cooking course. It was spectacular. The facility was set up amazing, but he just roasted these tomatoes in the oven for like, I don't know, half an hour with a couple little things sprinkled on them, and they were like to die for. So simple little things executed well, and how powerful they are. So yeah, so for it's just the beauty of simple things done well. That's my today. How about you? What are you thinking about today? Your phrase, your thought?
Right now I'm thinking about welcome to cooking tomatoes for mid-market company leaders. But my word is pride. Proud. Yeah, proud is such an interesting word. I'd never really thought about it until about. I thought about it, of course, like everybody, but I never thought about it in the impact of a company until maybe, I guess, 13, 14 years ago when I was in Boston doing a course with the Entrepreneurs Organization. There was this one guy, Dr. Gerald Bell, and he spoke about pride and why it's so important in organizations. And it's just one of those moments that stuck with me. And that came back today, pride.
Right. So proud about your tomatoes. That's a great way to weave that together. It is interesting. I had an amazing conversation actually with a CEO from your country last week. And, and we were also talking about pride. And I'm just looking at this book. It was actually, he said, it's a book on humility. We got talking about humility, how important it is. And, there's another version of pride, which is also, so there's pride in what you do, which is great, but there's also too much pride in yourself, which is like the opposite of humility. That can be dangerous. So I've been reading a really interesting book about humility based on that conversation.
So I know we got to get on with the episode. This is what I had in both of my books about pride. So employees or people must be proud of their product. They must be proud of their manager. Mm-hmm. They must be proud of their team, and they must be proud of their company, or they will eventually leave.
Yeah, so that is excellent. And there's the part of pride where we get too prideful, which becomes like arrogance or ego getting in the way. Mm-hmm. And that's a different version of pride than you're talking about, but that can become really dangerous, especially when people are really successful and that stuff starts to creep in.
It's good that we've started talking about books, because today is all about books. It's about the 7 books that every CEO must read. Geez, we've been wanting to do this episode for a while. It's been bouncing around, and I got to tell you, there was quite an enduring arm wrestle between the two of us to land on some that we felt, if you were a new CEO and you had to read a series of books, what would we present you with? Mm-hmm.
Ideally before you did the job. And interestingly, we had aimed for 7 and we ended up with 9. And there might be 4 other ones at the beginning, and there might be 2 bonus ones at the end. I'm not sure. But, the intent is 7. Our list actually has 9. I just realized when I looked at it as you were speaking. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we'll call it like 7++ would be inaccurate, but these are like the most important books that we believe from what we've seen that are for CEOs to read.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. But then we got talking about our books, right? And this episode is not about our books. Don't press turn off the station yet. But our books. So between us, we've worked on seriously worked on and released 4 books, and they would really be an amazing place to start. So first of all, is
how about you do? I'll do yours and you do mine.
Yep,
how about that? Let's
sounds,
mix it up.
And what's important in this episode is that we're saying this is the book, but this is why. And of course, we'll put the books in the show notes so you can look on your app and you can see that, right? So first of all, is scaling up. So Kevin, you and I both worked on that, but my participation was much smaller than yours in that book. You went around and interviewed 50 CEOs around the world and helped with all of that. So scaling up is a book by Vern Harnish. And what does scaling up do? It helps you to work on 4 decisions of people's strategy, execution, and cash. But it's how to scale your company. It helps you to organize and focus your company around the right things. It's really like I guess a playbook on how to scale. Anything else to add? So
that's great. That's more than enough. I'll cover off, Made to Thrive, which was your first book that you did, Brad, and is really about a lot of it. I mean, my takeaway is a lot of it is about the different roles that you have as a leader and what you need to do to be able to thrive in your role. There's lots more to it than that. But that's really mastering. It's 5 different roles. Is that right, Brad?
Yep.
5 roles. Thank God I got that right. 5 roles of a leader was a key piece so that you continue to thrive and do amazing work. Anything you'd add there?
Yeah, look, the working title was the 5 roles of a CEO. So if scaling up tells you what you've got to do to your business, then Made to Thrive tells you what your role is.
Perfect.
And then I guess I'll move on. If we're playing tag team, I'll move on to your oxygen mask first. And so this book is how to basically survive. So how do you look after yourself? Because not only is it lonely at the top, but also you are incredibly challenged on so many fronts, and many, many leaders can suffer either mental health issues or physical health issues, or just not actually spend their life building something that they really want to do. So as I best recall and understand, this is about your resilience. So if scaling up is about what you need to do to your company, then Made to Thrive is about your role, and then your oxygen mask is about looking after yourself.
Yeah, and looking after yourself so that you continue to be resilient and grow and don't get stuck along the way. Awesome. And finally, Onboarded, your most recent book, is about when you bring great people into your company, how do you make sure you make them successful and invest the time and energy and clarity of expectations to help them get to the point where they thrive and are successful versus fending for themselves and floundering.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
That's a good enough summary. That's fine.
Perfect. So those are our 4 books. How about Brett? So we would start with those. We wrote them because we believe they're important, and our target focus is CEOs and their exec teams. So how about Brad? I'll go through the odd number one. You go through the even number ones, and we're going to go through these and just give a quick list. So let's get a little drum roll. So outside of our books, number 1 by the great Jim Collins, and there's multiple books he's done, but the number 1 we have here is Good to Great. It's the red book right here behind me, and I'm sure it's right there behind you. And it's, in his study of what companies did that transitioned from good to great and compared to others who had the same opportunity and didn't, what are those main principles? And we use them again and again and again and again and again. So Good to Great, amazing book and study of taking your okay company and making it spectacular and proven principles that, anyway, beautiful stuff. And it's probably his most well-known book.
And look, I guess I find it resonates with people because it's a 30-year period. It is, it's highly data driven, and it's irrefutable, and it very clearly explains what is great, what makes great in terms of companies.
And that same identical approach, data driven, etc., goes into number two of our top books.
And that if there was any critic or any issue with good to great, it was very large companies. So he addresses that in Great by Choice, which is more about the mid-market. So it's the same type of approach and understanding what are the disciplines in smaller businesses. And I say that, you know, up to, I guess, 500 million or whatever the kind of range is. What are the things that work? And it's probably, by all accounts, a better book, but is probably number 2 on our list for a reason, because Great by Choice has other elements.
It is, and for when it comes to turbulent times and understanding what to do and how to thrive in those turbulent times, that book is exceptional. Basically, de-risking risk in many cases. Awesome. So the first 2 by Jim Collins. Number 3, Brad Smart wrote the original book, although there's many editions, called Top Grading. His son Jeff wrote a simpler version, more for the mid-market, called Who. But it's basically the guide to a highly disciplined system for predictably hiring the best people and not letting mediocre people infect your organization. And whether it's around hiring or promoting, it's a very powerful system. And, you know, it's even for both of us. I mean, when I did the interviews for Scaling Up, 8 of the CEOs referenced Top Grading as a game changer. Just last week, I was down in Chicago and caught up with Chris Mersaw, the president of Top Grading. We work with him very closely. He's a key partner for us because getting those hires wrong is incredibly challenging. So, disciplined approach to consistently getting close to 90% accuracy on your hiring and promotion decisions. Who is a much easier read, although Chris and Brad Smart have a new book coming out soon. That also, I'm hoping, will be an easier read because it's just a little more succinct. And I mean, Top Grading is there's so much in it. Yeah,
I've read the new book from Brad Smart, and it's much shorter and much easier to read and more succinct, as you said. So look out for that one. Moving on, How the Mighty Fall. Crikey, Jim Collins has cracked 3 of the top 4 in our list. No surprises there for regular listeners, I guess. But yeah, How the Mighty Fall, it introduces, or it reinforces the importance of humility. Now, that might be easy to say, but all can fail no matter what. Okay. And we go back to Jim Collins' definition of a level 5 leader is a humble leader who wants to build a business that's bigger than themselves. Now, why does that matter? Because that's what works. That's where the great enduring companies come from. The opposite of that, right? These are the companies that simply don't succeed and don't endure. And sure, they may have levels of success, but in terms of ongoing. So yeah, How the Mighty Fall being number 4.
The part about it I also love outside of humility is that it shows the 8 different behaviors of executive teams that either drive a company up or down. We use this as an assessment on part of our annual strat meeting, which ties back into last episode about annual strategic planning meetings. But that assessment is amazing, how the behaviors change and then hurt the company. Okay. Number 5, The Outsiders, William Thorndike. Amazing book about some of the best CEOs, and gets to the point that the number 1 measure of CEO performance is return on invested capital, right? That is how much, based on the cash they're given, how much of a return they generate consistently over time. It's an amazing book, some great stories. And interestingly, based on this measure, most of the top CEOs on their list, you have never heard of. Just awesome book. The Outsiders, really, really love it. And it really gets you to think about your business differently, especially in a world focused on profitability.
Next is Better, Simpler Strategy by Felix Oberholzer-Guy. So,
well said.
Well, Strategy is a hard one because strategy, we've got some greats like in the strategy sphere who've got their own thing. So how do we get a book on there about strategy that is simple enough that most people can get it? Because many strategy books are written about big companies like the Nestle's or the Microsofts. So how do we get it so it's digestible and I guess actionable at this kind of level? So this book enables us to look at how to improve our strategy through two levers: customers willing to pay more, and are suppliers or employees willing to work for less. And by having those guardrails, it helps us to view the strategy through a different lens.
Yeah, and you know, one of the executive or leaders that we work with, you know, met the professor at one of the programs. I think it was Harvard or NCIAD, and I think it was, and they shared it with me. I was like, wow. They said it's the best they'd ever read. I didn't believe it, and I read it. I was like, wow, it was awesome. Okay, number 7. Shockingly, it's also got a 7 in the title. The 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave. Lee Branham. This is a book that we found more than a decade ago. Basically, you know, managers will tell you that people leave for money, and it's not the truth about 90% of the time. And through exit interviews, they have found that really people don't leave for money. They leave for these other 7 reasons. And if you understand them and manage them, you can keep your A players engaged, and they won't have to leave and tell you that the excuse that they left for money.
And that's important as a CEO, because you might think, yeah, that's a good job. I'll get the HR people to read that. But that that's important because that reinforces the importance of culture and all of the other things. And to understand that there is a component, I go back to the Made to Thrive, there is a component of the leader's job, which is about culture.
Exactly. And making sure that the managers are doing a good job, and managers aren't making excuses when they screw up and lose good people. Yeah. It was just, I love that book because it just, again, data takes all the noise out of the system, and we validated it, my gosh, hundreds of times. And our experience backs up. We have almost never lost a key leader for money. I don't think I know of one yet. That it's been those other 7 reasons. The money was on the table, but that's not really the reason. It's those other things weren't in place.
Okay, number 8, Turn the Ship Around by David Marquis. I remember seeing, when that book came out, I remember seeing him. He was an admiral in the US Navy who's given the worst performing submarine in the fleet, and he turned it around to be the best. But this is not about submarines. This is about this is about and if you don't know or understand or care for the military or the Navy, there's no problem at all, because primarily this is about how to transfer ownership from a leader to another person, and responsibility to employees, so that they come to you with recommendations. And they take accountability and ownership over what they do always. And it unlocks a new level, I guess, in your organization.
Yeah, it's basically teaching, for my takeaway, and a lot of people use this after reading the book as they're seeing them, is training people to come and say, I intend to. People coming to you with solutions and plans, and you either say, great, proceed, or, hey, have you thought about this, or have you considered? It's just a great way that you and your team can both learn to operate at a higher level. Okay, and number 9, last but not least, Necessary Endings, Dr. Henry Cloud. And, you know, we're always obsessed with doing new things and starting new things and initiatives and programs. But this is basically talking about how important it is to end things. And it was really impactful when I read it. I read it a few years ago. I need to go back and read it again. But how important it is to stop things, end things, and relationships of, in business and life and things like that, and freeing up resources for things that matter more. But it's a real deep walk down that road, and it was well done. Really powerful book, because it gets to one of the hardest part of all of our jobs: ending things, I don't like the word killing, but ending things, stopping things.
Yeah, let's not use that word. It's counter, right? That's the thing.
Yes.
That we look at all of the jobs, what it could be attributed to, or that could be attributed to a leader, and we can sometimes think it's the same, but this is completely from a different perspective. That there are necessarily endings. We need to think, how are we going to stop this? So that's 9. They're the top 9. But then through our arm wrestle, which is the preparation for this episode, we came up with 2 other ones to consider. So my bonus...
And we'll do them really quick because we're getting tight on time.
Yeah. So my bonus is a book called Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Halliday. See, we think that success lies in the outside world, but we can't achieve success because we sabotage ourselves all the time and we don't even know it. Remember, there was the angel and the devil in the cartoons. Well, the devil is your ego, and it's always there sabotaging everything that you want. So I encourage leaders to read this, and it always gives them a different frame of mind. What's your bonus, Kev?
Actually, Brad, I remember when I learned about that book, I was with you in Australia having a conversation with you and some of your CEOs. Yep. And one of the guys there in a room mentioned it. I remember hearing about that book. Mine is a classic from 1937, a book by Napoleon Hill called Think and Grow Rich. It's one of the early success classics. Many of the modern day books have pieces or essence of the DNA of that book in it. And Napoleon Hill went and studied the most successful American industrialists and what made them successful. And it's, like Jim Collins in a way, it's a study of what made them successful, which you can look at and look for ways to replicate it. Amazing book. I think I've read it 6-ish times. I'm ready to go back and read it again. Anyways, that's it. So up front, summarize our books: Brad's Made to Thrive and Onboarded. Mine, Your Oxygen Mask First, and the one that I was a key driver behind. No, my name's not on the cover, but Scaling Up. We're starting with those because those are what we think are important. That's why we wrote them. And then the list, good to great, great by choice, top grading, How the Mighty Fall, Outsiders, Better, Simpler Strategy, 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave, Turn the Ship Around, and Necessary Endings. That would be the core 9. And the bonuses: Ego is the Enemy was Brad's, and Think and Grow Rich was mine. Yeah. Hopefully those are some new ones in there that you can read and will provide you some powerful insights.
Yeah, must read. We didn't write that lightly. If you had the opportunity, or if you haven't read them, this is where we encourage you to head. Hope that you've enjoyed today's episode. My name is Brad Giles, and you can find me at evolutionpartners.com.au, where I produce a weekly newsletter you potentially could find interesting in some way, as does Kevin. He produces a newsletter each week with thoughts and ideas about building great companies. You can find Kev at lawrenceandco.com, and you can find us on YouTube. Of course, we always see a great spike when people rate the show. So we would love it if you could do us the smallest favor and rate the show on your listening vehicle of choice. Hope you've enjoyed the episode talking about the 9 books that every CEO must read. Look forward to chatting to you again next week.